Welcome to the Photoshop training channel. I have a great tutorial for you guys today. We're going to turn this handsome young man into an older person. Now, this young man is me, your host, Jesus Ramirez. I'm going to use a picture of me that I took outside my office, and we're going to take these 4 images to create an older version of myself. As you can see, we'll start by adding just a few wrinkles to my face, and we'll progress to add new eyebrows, sideburns, and even white hair. So stick around for this tutorial. It's a good one. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot. Okay guys, let's get started. The first step is to remove my subject from my background. To do that, I'm going to grab the quick selection tool, which is this one right here, or you can just click on W on the keyboard. Then click and drag around your subject until it's selected. And this tool is doing a pretty good job in this image. It might not be so easy for yours. It all depends on what you have. But in this case, it's doing a really good job. Once you've selected your subject, click on the Add Layer Mask icon, which is this one right here, and it'll create a layer mask. Then, under your Properties, and by the way, if you don't see this panel, go to Window and click on Properties. Under Properties, click on Mask Edge, so you can make adjustments to the layer mask that we just created. Then, click on the View and click black and white so you can see what that mask looks like. And as you can see, it's a little bit jaggy on some of the edges and it's not looking as smooth as I would like it to be. So to fix that, I'm just going to increase the smoothness just a little bit so my edges are just a little smoother, and probably smooth it out just a little bit more, and then press OK. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to drag it under the layer of your subject, and I'm going to double click on the color here, and under brightness I'm going to type in 50% so I can get a 50% gray. Press OK and fill that layer with that 50% gray. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to make sure that my mask selected everything that I wanted, and it did a pretty good job. I can see a little bit of haloing going on, and I can fix that in a moment. There's a problem here that I'm going to have to fix. The hair's okay since we're going to replace it with gray hair. So overall it did a great job, but there's a few things I gotta fix here and there. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back into my layer mask. I'm gonna click on Mask Edge once again, and this time I'm gonna select on Reveal Layer. So it shows, on Layers, which is the letter L, by the way. So I can see my foreground layer with my background layer, and I can increase the shift edge, or I mean in this case decrease, which since we're going into negative percentages, so it shrinks your mask and that haloing disappears. So just take it a little bit at a time until it's gone. If you did too much, you might get a hard edge like you see here. We're gonna fix that in a moment. So I'm just gonna press OK, and I'm gonna grab my brush tool with my layer mask selected. I can come in and fix any errors. I can bring back pixels using white, and I can take away pixels using black. So I'm just gonna fix some of these edges, and by the way, we're gonna get rid of the ears, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on there. Just make sure we got everything else. We lost a little bit of the person here, so I'm gonna change my foreground to white and bring some of it back. And it looks like overall it did a great job. Alright, that's fine for now. And the other side is looking good. I'm going to double click on my zoom tool so I can, or actually I'm going to set it to fit to screen so we can see the entire image. Okay, that's the first step. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have some guides. And these guides are going to help us align other images to our current image, and you'll see what I mean by that in a moment. The first guide I want to add is I want to add a guide directly down the middle of my canvas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into View, New Guide, select Orientation to Vertical, under Position, type 50%. Then press OK, and Photoshop automatically creates a vertical guide down the middle of the canvas. If the person that you're photoshopping is not dead center in the middle, I would put them there since it makes things much easier. So as you can see, mine already matches perfectly. The next step is we're going to add a few more guides. So I'm going to add a couple guides here where my face ends, and on the other side as well. And I'm going to add one guide for the hairline, one guide for the center of the eyes, one guide for the nose, one for the mouth, and one for the chin. And then I'm going to grab one and put it right so we create a center point right in the eye and another one in the other eye. And this is just going to help us place our image. Next, I'm going to rename this layer Original. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to close the layer below. And in this first one, I'll just name it Old 01. Next, we're going to bring in some images that are going to help us add some wrinkles and some texture to this face. So I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'm going to select this image right here, Old 01. And I'm just going to hold Alt and Shift to increase the size of this image, and so it increases from the middle. And you can kind of guess what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to match these guides onto this face so it matches the face underneath. Okay, so we have hairline, we have the eyes, we have the nose, mouth, and chin. This is actually pretty good. Maybe just turn it just a little more, move it a little bit to the left. But actually, it's a little wide, so let me just bring it this way just a little bit. Alright, that's going to be good. Then I'm going to press Enter. I'm going to right click on my layer and click on Rasterize Layer, which is this option right here. I'm going to press Control A to highlight everything. I'm going to go to Image and Crop, and I'm going to select just his head and a little bit of his neck as well. And then right click on that and click Select Inverse and then Delete. We don't need anything but his head. I'm going to press Control H to hide my guides. And by the way, if I bring down the opacity, you see how well that matches. So you can kind of tell what we're going to do. We're going to grab some of his wrinkles and apply it to this face. Isn't this cool? Even this right here looks pretty cool. But anyway, so I'm going to set that back to 100. I'm going to click and drag this layer over to the side, somewhere about there. And I'm going to press Control E on my keyboard, which will merge these two into one layer. And we need to have both of these in one layer so we can work with them. So press Control E, and I'm going to apply my layer mask. So now I have both images in one layer. What we're going to do now is we're going to use the patch tool to our advantage, which is this one right here, patch tool. And then set your source to destination, and you can click and drag areas where there's wrinkles and drag them over to your image, and it will apply those wrinkles to your image. So as you can see, it applied those wrinkles there. I'm going to press Control D to deselect that, or Command D on the Mac, by the way. And this is a little too harsh. This is not exactly what we're going for. So I'm going to click on my history panel. And actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to click on Merge Down so we can go back into the step where we merge down the layer. I'm going to click on this little photo camera here, which will create a snapshot of this particular history. So the first one should be your original image, and then this snapshot is of the merge down step. I'm going to click on deselect so we can come back to the time where we place that patch on my face. Then on your snapshot 1, click on the box right next to that, and you'll notice the icon of the brush history tool. The brush history tool is essentially a brush that paints history. So no matter what changes we make to this image, it will, if you use the brush history tool, it'll bring it back to that state. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to click on the brush history tool, increase the size of that brush, and I can paint away the wrinkles I added. Now this is pretty cool because now we can go to Edit, Fade History Brush, and we can fade how we deleted that. So you can see we can bring just a little bit or all of those wrinkles. So I don't want it all. I don't want them all. I just want a little bit. So maybe something like that. 61% works for this particular piece. Then I can use my brush tool to kind of blend in those wrinkles just a little bit better. And that's all we're going to do. We're going to take this image and 3 others, and we're going to keep adding wrinkles to this face. Now, I'm going to pause the video in just a few moments and show you what that ultimately looks like, since it can take some time. And I'm sure you don't want to sit there for 2 hours looking at me putting wrinkles on my face. But before I let you go, I want to show you a few other things for you to keep in mind. The other thing I want to show you is you can use the patch tool, and as we did before, just put it over. And that's great. But the other thing you can do is you can actually draw with your lasso tool on, for example, let's say the side of my nose here, and we know we want to target this area. You can move it to your source image and then click on the patch tool and drag that over. So now we have exactly the shape that we want selected, so we don't have to estimate on this side and then bring it over to this side to find out that we didn't select the right amount of space. But anyway, I'm going to press Ctrl D to deselect, use the brush tool once again. I usually like to delete it all and then use the fade history brush, which is Shift Control F or Shift Command F on the Mac. And I'll just bring that back, and you can see us adding some really nice wrinkles, right about 32% or so. And again, I'm going to use the history brush tool to kind of feather the edges. And that's pretty much it. That's all we're going to do. And by the way, if you have hair on your face like I do here, I would remove that, since if we add hair onto there, and it did a good job here, but I have black hair. If you have a different color hair, it might not work as well. In some areas it doesn't work as well. It's actually a bad example because it worked great, but it doesn't always work this great. So what I would do is I would just use the clone tool to remove any hair. Oops, let me press Ctrl D to deselect that, and I can use the clone tool and press Alt for a place where I want to gather my source pixels from, and I would just remove it. It just makes things much easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pause this video and I'm going to add more wrinkles, and I'll see you in just a moment. Okay guys, we're back, and as you can see now I'm working with a different image. I've added more wrinkles to my face. The next step is to use the liquify tool, and I want to match the eyes of this person. As you can see, as you get older, your eyes start sagging just a little bit. So I want my eyes to have that same shape. So I'm gonna go to Filter, Liquify, and I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit. So oops, that's too much. And I'm just gonna increase the brush size and kind of add that shape to my eyes, and be careful not to distort the eyes too much. You're just kind of adding that tired, sagging look to them. You might also want to add more volume to your nose if you need to. As you get older, your noses get a little bit bigger and they start sagging just a little bit more as well, and your chin is not as defined, so I might as well add some of that. And you know, you tend to gain a little weight, so maybe make your face just a little bit wider. And when you're done, you can just press OK. And as you can see, our old person's starting to look a little older. There's still a lot of work to do. We still got to work on the eyebrows, we got to work on the ears, we got to work on the hair. Again, I'm going to pause the video. I just wanted to show you that liquify that I did, so you can do it to your image. Now, I'm going to briefly tell you what I'm going to do for the ears and the eyebrows. As I said before, I'm not going to go into exactly how I'm going to do it, since it's going to take some time, but I want to show you the techniques. For the ears, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this man's ears. And by the way, my source files, I'm going to have them for you guys on my website, so you can just scroll under the video. The links are there. So photoshoptrainingchannel.com if you're not there now. So I'm going to use the lasso tool, and I'm just going to trace around his ear. It's okay if I don't do a good job. If I miss the part, I can just hold Shift and then just draw that back in. And actually, to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to hold Alt And oops, I'm gonna hold Alt, which is Option on the Mac, and I'm gonna just try to get as close as to the edge as I can. I know I can do a little bit better. Actually, here, even a better idea. I'm gonna click in the quick mask mode, and I'm just gonna paint with black, so I can just get the ear and nothing else. It just makes things so much easier when we try to place the ear on the actual face. And the reason we're using this ear is because, you know, as with everything else, they just start looking old. And obviously, at this point in time, I have young looking ears. So I'm going to try to get this old looking ear onto my face. So that now that that's selected, I'm just going to press Edit, Copy, and I'm going to paste it. Now, that's the long way. Another thing you can do is just Layer, New, Layer via Copy. So it just creates a new layer via a copy. So you don't have to do Edit, Copy, and Paste. Just a little trick there for you. And I'm just going to place this here where my ear is, press Control T, drag the pivot point down to the bottom of the ear so it rotates from that point, and it scales from that point. So we're just going to try to match my ear as best as possible. Now you might not get it there 100%, and that's okay. Just press Enter, and then go into Liquify once again. Click on Liquify, and try to match the shape of your ear so it looks more like your ear, not somebody else's ear just Photoshop onto you. So once you match the shape of your ear, press OK, and add a layer mask. Select the black on your foreground, select the soft brush, increase the size if you need to by clicking on the bracket keys on your keyboard, and feather the edges. And that's what we're going to do for both of our ears, so our ears look a little bit older. Also, in this particular ear, it's a little more red than my skin tone, so you can just go to Image, Adjustment, Hue Saturation, and add a little bit of hue towards the yellow, maybe a little bit lighter, less saturation, and something like that looks a little more like my skin tone. So that's now, and this is before. So as you can see, it's a little bit of improvement. And you might also want to play around with image adjustment, color balance, and add yellow if you need to, or add red, or whatever colors you may need to add in your shadows, midtones, or highlights. I'm just going to cancel out of that. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the other ear, but I'll do that off camera. And I'm also going to add new eyebrows. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on the layer that I'm working on, and I'm just going to draw with the marquee tool around my eyebrow. And I'm going to find a spot where there's no wrinkles, just this texture here, just my old skin texture. Grab your patch tool, make sure it's set to destination, uncheck transparent, click and drag that over to where your eyebrow is, and it will get rid of our eyebrow. Now go into your history brush, and if you get a stop sign like this, it means that your history is not set. Something happened, something changed that it can't read from your snapshot. So what you can do is you can also use one of the previous steps. So I'm going to go patch selection. Actually, I'm sorry, that won't work. If I click on patch selection, nothing will happen. Under move selection, and then it will bring your eyebrow back. Now what you can do again is go into Edit, Fade, and you can fade your eyebrow. Now as you get older, your eyebrows are not as prominent, so something about, I don't know, 39-40% will work. I'll just leave it at 41 and press OK. Then I will do the same thing for both eyebrows, and I would draw in some new eyebrows with white hair. Now the way I'm going to do that is I created a new brush, and let me show you what that looks like. I created a brush out of this path. All I did is I created a path that looks like a hair strand using the pen tool. Then I took that path and I set a soft brush to 2 pixels, set my foreground to black, Then I clicked on my path selection tool, click on stroke, and I stroke my brush. And it created this hair strand. Once my hair strand was created, I went into edit, define brush preset, and it turned it into a brush. Now if I click on my brush tool, you will see that this right here is my brush that I created, my hair strand brush. If I go into the brush preset options, you'll see that I added an angle of 90 degrees, round is 100%, spacing 25. I added some shape dynamics, set my size jitter to 100, minimum diameter to 1%, angle jitter 9%, roundness 19%. And by the way, angle jitter, the control was set to direction. That's really important. Then my minimum roundness to 25%. And I added just a little bit of smoothing. And when I draw, I get this. Now it doesn't look like much here, but if I bring my brush size down and just kind of click and draw, it kind of looks like hair. So that's what I'm going to use for my eyebrows, my sideburns, and nose hair, ear hair, different type of facial hair that I'm going to add to my image. So I'm going to go back into this into my working composition. I'm going to set my foreground to white, select that same brush tool, and bring the size down, and then just draw my eyebrows in a new layer. Once you do that, you can bring the opacity down, and you can also press Ctrl T, click on warp, so you can warp that eyebrow so it has just a little more shape if need be. Press enter when you're done. You can also duplicate your layer and maybe move it up or down, whatever works for you, and just decrease the opacity just to add a little more shape to it. And you might want to add both of those into one group, and then control the opacity of both. So that's how I'm going to add my eyebrows. So once again, I'm going to pause the video and come back once I've done the ears and the eyebrows. Okay guys, we're back. As you can see, I brought in another image, and I used him to add a little more definition to my cheeks here, to the wrinkles on my cheeks, to my chin. Just used them for a few other areas. As you can see, this part here and the wrinkles on his forehead are part of that man. So so far we used 3 different images. Also, I added the eyebrows as I showed you before. You might not be able to tell, but there's some really tiny strands of nose hair coming out of the nose and a few in the ears. It might be a little bit hard to tell on your screen right now, but you can see the final image at my website and you can probably see it there. Also, I've gone and added some of my blemishes on my face that are prominent, like under my lip or above my lip. These are very prominent to me, so I just added that extra layer so they would still be there. Let me go ahead and turn on the original layer so you can see. As you can see, this here, they're really prominent on my face. So by keeping those, I think it adds another step of realism. So I'm going to go ahead and bring... The next step is to create our old person hair. Again, I'm not going to show you every step, but I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do. One of the first steps I'm going to do is to create a new layer. I'm going to use that hair strand brush, and I'm going to just create some sideburns for myself. So I'm just going to draw those in, and obviously I'm doing it faster than I would, since I know the hair that I'm going to be bringing in does not have the sideburns that I'm looking for. So anyway, once I draw my sideburns, I might need to bring the opacity down on them or even change the color. One thing I can do is I can lock my transparent pixels so I can only draw in the pixels that are visible, not the invisible ones. What that allows me to do is I can set a color, for example, maybe this brown there, go to Edit, Fill, and use foreground color. And it will fill those strands of hair with that color. Then I can go to Edit, Fade, and fade those, so maybe they're not white, maybe they're taking some of that brown from my skin. So that's something that I'm probably going to do on the hair that I'm about to bring in. So the hair that I'm going to use, I'm going to press Ctrl Z or Command Z to undo those. The hair that I'm going to use is from this gentleman right here. This guy has similar hair to mine, and I'm just gonna copy about this much. Go to copy and just bring it over onto the composition that I'm working on and paste it. And I'm going to try to match it as best as I can on my forehead. I'm going to bring back my guides so I can see where my hairline is. And actually his hair parts on his right, mine parts on my left. So I'm just going to do a horizontal flip on that. And just bring the hair in as best as I can. I'm going to bring the opacity down so I can see the layer underneath. Okay, maybe even make it just a little smaller. It's a little too big at this point. Bring that over to and something like that would probably work. So I'm going to bring the opacity back to 100, press Ctrl H to hide all my guides and all my other visual aids. I'm going to add a layer mask, and I'm just going to draw in with black so I can delete. Oops, let me choose a different brush. I'm going to choose one of these soft brush tools, press Ctrl Z to undo that. I didn't mean to do that. And I'm just going to draw in my face again, and I'm going to give myself a haircut here because that's not how my hair looks. So again, you don't have to be too perfect at this stage. You can make some mistakes, but you will have to fix them at one point. I just kind of want to get this going to show you. Okay, so that, even that right there looks pretty good. That looks a lot like my hair already. And I'm just going to zoom in. And a few things that I would recommend doing is using your smudge tool. When you're on your layer mask, you can use the smudge tool to smudge in some hair strands. So this is kind of what I like to do. See, as you can see, I can bring out some hairs. So when you're creating a layer mask, you don't have a hard edge. You can actually use the smudge tool after you do your hard edge and bring out some hairs. It just makes things a lot more realistic, and they don't look as flat and sharp. They look more like real hair would look. So you can do that to bring hairs in or bring hairs out. And as I said before, I added this layer of sideburns. This layer is right there, and you can kind of work with that layer to match your hair. Now that, as I said before, this hair is way too bright. It's not going to be 100% white. So what I can do is I can just take the color of this darker white. Probably, oops, gotta select the actual layer, not the layer mask. Probably that color right there. And go to Edit, Fill, and make sure your pixels are locked, your transparent pixels. Fill, use foreground color, press OK. Go to Edit, Fade, and find a nice medium, maybe, I don't know, 75%. And that looks pretty good on this side. And of course, I would have to mask out the hair just a little bit more to make everything match, but that's essentially what I'm going to do. So once again, I'm going to pause the video and I'll come back when I'm done. Okay guys, this is my final image. As you can see, I've gone ahead and added the hair. One thing I had to do was I had to remove my original hair since it was distracting from that hair since it poked out of the background. I had to add just a little more skin right above my hairline just to cover the mask that I created so it blended better. Also, I added some ear hair here. You can kind of see it. I don't know how visible it's going to be on the video, but you can check out the final image. I think that you'll get a better view of it there. And I added some strands of white hair to my eyelashes since as you age, your eyelashes start to get white as well. Ear hair here, nose hair coming out of the nose, and as I said before, I kept in all the blemishes. Oh yeah, and I added some white dots just above my lips since, also your facial hair starts getting white too. So I had some black facial hair, so I just kind of hit it a little bit with some white dots there. So you might want to do the same. Also, since this image was extracted from its background, you can add whatever background you want to it, or you can leave the same background you originally had. Whatever you like, it's up to you. So before I let you go, I just quickly want to show you a before and after. So this is the before, and that's the after. So I don't know. I think we did a good job here. What do you guys think? I would love to see what you guys come up with, so feel free to post your before and afters on my website, on my Facebook. The website is photoshoptrainingchannel.com. The Facebook is facebook.com/photoshoptrainingchannel. Anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, feel free to share this on Facebook, Twitter, or wherever you guys share your stuff. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and subscribe to my email list. If you subscribe to my email list, you will receive an email every time I put up a new tutorial, and you will also get subscriber-only tutorials. Actually, if you subscribe right now, there's a tutorial there that's not on my website, that's not on my YouTube, it's only for my subscribers. So I'll be doing those periodically. So feel free to join and just get some more free Photoshop training. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.